So it's Raj Katecha from MediaTechSocial.com, and we do live in a world where there are a lot of alleged web celebrities, but there's no doubt that these two guys and the contribution they've just made to internet thinking gives them the right to be called web celebrities. Here they are, Shel and Robert, with their new book, Age of Context. Congratulations, guys, the book is out.
Thank you very much. It's great to launch it here in WebSummit in Dublin.
You and I spoke a few months ago in Dublin. No, we spoke in Paddington in London.
Yeah.
And we were knocking a few ciders that night. And I remember you got into quite a heated debate with somebody about how many devices are going to come out. Tell me about kind of the key themes of the book and what you learned as you were writing it.
Yeah, well, I just had dinner with the guy who runs the Consumer Electronics Show. And we already know of startups that are coming out with shirts that have 14 sensors next year, shoes that have 100 sensors on them. You've already seen the Nike Fuel Band and the Fitbit and the Jawbone Up and the Samsung Watch and the Pebble Watch and the Google Watch. I mean, there's a lot of stuff coming out in the next 18 months that are wearable. These guys over here have my Google Glass app. I usually have Google Glass on. And, we have ski goggles now with computers in them that watch where you are on the mountain and how fast you're going. It's on and on and on and on.
So it's been 8 years since you guys wrote your last book. What is it that kind of warrants you guys collaborating on? What's the size of a subject that would make you guys write a book?
Well, we were pretty revolutionary when we said that blogs might be important 7 years ago. It was supposed to be a passing fad, and now it's become a component. It's grown up. I think I was the world's first person to have a business card that said I was a social media strategy consultant. Now that's about as valuable as saying that I'm a fax repairman.
Right.
There's something new that's going on, and Robert, who goes out for Rackspace and looks all over the world at the coolest, shiniest objects in the coolest companies, started seeing these 5 trends coming together, and he realized the greatness of what's happening, that everything was about to change in terms of work, in terms of human lives, in terms of how our children are raised. And most of it is good. We both agree with that. Robert and I are a little different on the downside. I think privacy is a real issue. Robert embraces it all, probably more than anybody on earth, as far as I can tell.
You're not one for hitting privacy settings. I mean, we've spoke before, and you're very open. You know that if you're sharing it, you're sharing it.
Yeah, this new world does have a downside. It's like driving kills 37,000 people in the United States a year, and we all drive because there's a utility to driving. And same thing here. The more data you put in these systems, the more you're going to get out of it. The more it's going to help you live your life. Like just one small app, I use TripIt while traveling, and it tells me stuff about whether the plane's being canceled or whether there's a delay ahead, and it helps me live my life. But I had to give it some data. I had to give it my plane tickets, which is probably weird to some people, right?
So you guys are on the cutting edge as far as like entrepreneurship and technology is concerned, and obviously that's where the big groundswell is in terms of innovation. What can you tell us about your observations with the venture capital, private equity, hedge funds, and the kind of money that's being stored aside to invest in these kind of projects?
Part of the book started 18 months ago when venture capitalists told me they were investing in wearables. So that Mark Andreessen, when I had lunch with him, said, I just invested in Jawbone, right? Why? Because he saw that wearables were going to be the next frontier of interesting things for humans. The cell phone's pretty much done. I mean, Apple and Google are going to continue beating themselves up and trying to add a new feature every year. But really, the idea of a cell phone is done, right? Wearables is not done. It's a new frontier, right?
I'd add a little to that. Smart investors like Mark Andreessen got there before we did. But there are a great number of investors who kind of follow trends. And they call themselves venture investors, but they're really risk adverse. The smart money is going into contextual now, and the smartest investors are there. They're about 10% of the worldwide venture community.
Now, I want to make my final question a smarter one as possible. I come from a background of obviously working for paid content and Rafa Ali and all those guys, and I've looked at publishing and how it's changed. Let me ask you a question about, if we look under the hood of this book, financing, what can you tell us about it? I'm assuming that Rackspace was involved in some way as a sponsor. How important are book sales to you? How are you going to be distributing it?
That's fine. We began by looking at traditional publishers, and they offered us not an adequate amount of money, also not an adequate amount of time to write the book, and we realized we could do a lot better on our own. Guy Kawasaki came out with a book with Sean Welch, who we also worked with, called Ape, and it was really the guidebook to self-publishing. Robert has this wonderful job for Rackspace. I am foolish enough to try to make a living writing, and so we went around, we said, we'd like you to sponsor us because it's going to be a very cool book. And we may or may not cover you, but you will have no impact in the editorial content. And we got $105,000 from 7 sponsors in 3 or 4 weeks. And that allowed me to not only work for 7 months on the book, but to hire top-notch editors, designers, all the people that you would need on a freelance basis. And the end result is this book has already made me more money than the 4 previously published books combined have made me, and then some. It's only been out a month.
This is a big deal. Amazon really has changed the world of retailing. This book, when we finished the manuscript and turned it in, it was in people's hands in about 2 to 3 weeks. In a normal book publishing system, it would take 3 to 9 months. And that speed is shifting.
That will kill you in this industry in terms of it not being relevant anymore.
Yeah, that's one thing. The other thing is most people now are buying the book on Audible books, Audible, or buying it on Kindle, or very very few of the books we sell are actually paper copies. And so why do we care about being on airport bookstore shelf? Not so much anymore, because this industry, the people now are putting it on their Kindle, right?
And it wouldn't be an interview with Robert Scoble or Shel Isreal if I didn't have to ask today, when you guys open when you guys have your pints of Guinness tonight and you're opening your bottles of red, what are you thinking about next?
We were arguing about it, and thinking about what the further. Well, first of all, we in the last month since the book came out, there's been 5 or 6 new companies I wish we had gotten in the book. So we might do an update, like a 1.1 kind of update, or an extra chapter that it covers what's happened since the publishing of the book. But we're looking at the people who are building companies. We're looking at the structure of the company. Now, how is the structure of the company changing since this technology is going to be in everybody's pockets, right?
What about like healthcare 2.0, education 2.0? It's got to be a heated debate between you guys.
Well, there's always heated debates between Robert and I. That's probably why we're such good co-authors. I am playing with a lot of ideas. Several of them involve Robert, but I'm pretty passionate about writing a book. I wouldn't say healthcare, about health or contextual health. Particularly the fact that we see in the book we talk about this bottom-up revolution of people using contextual technology to take control of their health, take it away from the institutional system. And I'm pretty passionate about that. I've done feelers on Facebook, which I always do, and bottom-up health and education have scored very well with them. Robert's got some other ideas that interest me, and we have to continue over the next few months selling books and arguing on such subjects.
I'd love to see that. I mean, there's a show in the UK, which is, no disrespect if you've not seen it, called Grumpy Old Men, which is just 2 guys chewing up the fat. Yeah, chewing up the fat and getting into some ideas. Listen, guys, thank you so much for coming on MediaTechSocial.com. Of course, big fans of both of yours. Continue to push the envelope, and absolute all the best with Age of Context, which is available on Amazon right now, guys.
Thank you.
Enjoy your time at Dublin WebSummit, and of course we can have a close-up. Pay attention, guys. Come in and get involved.